President ka KJD STA Babu Boswell pala ulaong babaro ki Nonghikai bat ki batrei hapo ki school deficit ki kwa ya ka sarkar bakan pintre kambet ya ka scheme 8,000 pulai bat ya ka NPS kumbala sedang nadu ningkong bat badai ban pindapura ya ka kumbala ang nuat dabaro habakran shikilat patai kubor Babu Boswell pala ulaong bakalong ka ka basngol thamula baka sarkar jala ka wanra ban pintre kam jubor da ka Meghalaya non-government school and college employees centralized provident fund scheme 8,000 punriu bat kumju ru ban ong ba ki Nonghikai bat nong trade deficit kin dan no shabar jong ka central provident fund khat khandai hinriu pho khandai ka badai ka jing pynbna ka bakile shim hadin ba ki Nonghikai ki layami no shabar ha ka jing ya lang balalong ha ka hinriu trek mentau banai ha secretariat ulia tho ba ka sarkar ka khat jing ya lang ye ki bat trade deficit tang hashwa shisngi ban pinlong ye ka jing bishar jong ka Meghalaya high court bat keno ru baka sarkar kalakwa menshule da kabor ban shimru ye ki rai jing yakran kham da dan lang ki Nonghikai bat ki nong trade deficit ulaong baka sarkar kala da pentikna bakan sakhat biang sa shise ne ka jing lang ban ya dan lang da baro ki seng deficit nangta na ka SBI ki baklam sha khat ha ka jing lang baladap henry la sha pynkyllaiñ jelebi pynban na baya baro ki jing yakran ladap ban shimrai da ki wei ha ka jaka jong ki nong trade deficit komta kam dan jingmut ban shim benta ha ka jing lang bakhat da katanat puli puthi ha ka khat saw san arpun riu na bala pinmi ka jing pynbna banbu shabar na ka CPF khat khandai riu pu khandai bat ba ka sarkar ka ong ban pinya chakmat ik scheme arja pun riu on sa shim rai hadien ka jing bishar ka yeng bishar Meghalaya kumta ki nong trade deficit ki e ha ka jing start ka jing shim bishar ka high court.
Here we are again, because despite the fact that clearly the government knows that we have our concerns, which are very genuine and legitimate, with regard to the Meghalaya non-government school and college employees centralized provident fund scheme 2026 and the non-continuation of the implementation of that till now referred, I think we can refer it as scheme 2023. The government has called us for a meeting on the 6th of May 2026, that was last week, to understand the concerns of the deficit employees. We went to the meeting with one intention, to tell the government that, okay, if it still chooses to pretend like it does not know what the point is, what our concerns are, it has done this for its own convenience, then we are ready to tell it again and again that our concerns are these. Basically, continue the implementation of Scheme 2023 and the NPS that you started sometime in 23-24, and just remove this Scheme 2026. So we went to the meeting on the 6th of May 2026 last week, but upon hearing and seeing that other non-government, non-deficit people were in the meeting, we object to that. Besides objecting to the fact that there were many tamperings, 3 to be precise, of the Board of Trustees, and also the non-invitation of our deficit colleagues from other associations. To our dismay, not long after we came out of the meeting, by the way, we came out of the meeting, please note this, my dear friends, we came out of the meeting on the 6th of May 2026, that was last week, only after the chairman of the meeting, Shri Vijay Kumar Mantri, said that he would conclude the meeting after we made our representation, after we made our objections, and then he told us that we could leave the meeting. So we left the meeting. And then after we left the meeting, we learned later on that there were further discussions that took place in the meeting that were, so to say, very troubling, in the sense that because of those discussions, there were suggestions and observations made in our absence when we had already left the meeting. And these suggestions and observations that were made in our absence, I need to stress that, were jumped upon by the government, by the education department, and because of these suggestions and observations, it made very damaging notifications that are very damaging to the deficit employees, and maybe say to the whole education system in Meghalaya. I think I have to say this, that is a very low kind of cheating of the very low level. The suggestion and observation that particularly tells us that there is clear intention to harm us and the education system in Meghalaya is that one that resulted in the notification that the employees, deficit employees, could opt out of the CPF 1969. It has to be very clear that the employees who are having CPF right now are only the deficit employees. And to have other people speak on behalf of the deficit employees and to make the government come out with a detrimental notification is wrong on all fronts. Morally wrong, procedurally wrong, and even legally wrong. How can people decide for us in our absence? This is clearly a very evil manipulation by the people who think that they can do anything just because they are in power. How can the government come up with a twisted notification telling us, the deficit employees, that we could opt out of this CPF 1969 when it had just told us that we would be called for a proper meeting? And by the way, the meeting would be today. How could the government come up with a highly questionable notification and the forced implementation of the scheme 2026 when the government itself says, as per the minutes of the meeting, we have it here with us, that this I will have to read exactly because in the minutes it is written like this: further action on the implementation and operationalization of the scheme will be taken after due consideration of the matter pending before the Honorable High Court of Meghalaya. And yes, when the matter is pending in the High Court, how can the government rush to implement the objected and rejected scheme of 2026? And we reiterate here that we trust in the honor and wisdom of the court. And it is quite noticeable. It is something that we have seen as a pattern, that the government, the education department, calls us for a meeting just one day before a court hearing. Last week, there was the court hearing on the 7th. We were called for a meeting on the 6th. This week, there will be a court hearing tomorrow. We are called for a meeting today. And we have to say this, that if inviting us to a meeting, our presence in that meeting is only meant to manipulate certain things, I think we have to take a call from now on that we will not attend these kinds of meetings, especially when the issue is very clear, when the things to be discussed in the meeting are very clear. I may repeat myself here that we have to express our concerns to the government. That is the purpose of the meeting last week, the meeting of this week also. And the government clearly knows that we have certain concerns. They know what our concerns are. And I think we should applaud the government for being successful in creating some confusion. And yes, sadly, it has managed to create frustration and depression in some of the deficit employees, especially the retired ones. We cannot really think how our own government can be so unresponsive and irresponsible towards us. We request the government to act with sensitivity and sensibility when it comes to our issues, particularly this case of our Scheme 2023 and NPS. Today there is another meeting, as I said earlier, and the meeting notice clearly says that we are called to this meeting to discuss Scheme 2026. It is another clear sign that the government thinks it can bulldoze its way into full implementation of this challenged Scheme 2026. We understand the government has all the resources, but we have only our voice, and we have to request only the government itself to look at the act and the law. And when the government itself had started the implementation of Scheme 2023 and NPS, it should complete the implementation of these and remove the barrier that it erected in the form of Scheme 2026 to block the completion of implementation of Scheme 2023 and the NPS. Another point I would like to share through you to other people. We would like to know from the government what happened to the SBI Mutual Fund, which was notified as the portfolio manager of the Non-Government Schools and Colleges Employees Central Provident Fund sometime in October 2025. Because for the meeting on the 6th of May last week, no person from SBI Mutual Fund was invited, whereas other bank officials from insurance came. We keep requesting the government. We will not get tired of requesting the government to please complete the implementation of Scheme 2023 and NPS for the deficit teachers and employees. In the long run, education in our state of Meghalaya will gain.